All right, plenty to discuss here on Philadelphia Eagles now. Hope all of you out there are having a great Wednesday. I'm off, but had to bring you a video from the crib because there's so much to talk about. Lane Johnson injury update. We'll get to the latest on Jalen Hurts. And could Terrell Owens sign with the Cowboys at 49 years old? A wild report out there. But first, make sure you subscribe. We'll be live tomorrow on Eagles Now, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 o'clock Pacific. Then live on New Year's Day Sunday as the Eagles look to clinch that first-round bye in the NFC East with a win over the New Orleans Saints. Our pregame coverage will start at 12:30 p.m. Eastern time. So, Eagles injury news here. Lane Johnson, he's going to put off core muscle surgery until after the season. So he consulted with numerous medical experts, and he's going to attempt to play in the NFL playoffs. Now, this injury happened during the Cowboys game. He suffered a torn abductor, and he's going to try to rehab that injury over the next 2-3 weeks. Hopefully, the Philadelphia Eagles are able to clinch that first-round bye to give him an extra week to recover from this injury, rehab it so that he can be at least somewhat normal in the divisional round as the Eagles look to lock up that first-round bye. And at the end of the day, this is why it's so important for the Eagles to get the number one seed in the NFC. The NFC playoff picture right now, a lot of movement, especially with some of those wild card teams. The Eagles looking to really avoid what would be a disastrous collapse to end the season. Going into the final 3 weeks, the magic number was 1. So they need to win one game, Cowboys lose one, and then things will start to fall in their favor. But a difficult matchup this upcoming Sunday against New Orleans, a team that's fighting for their playoff lives. If they lose, they officially get eliminated from playoff contention. And this is an Eagles team that has had mental fortitude this year, but now they're dealing with a lot of adversity with this injury to Lane Johnson as well as Jalen Hurts. So I just want to see how the Eagles can respond here and fight back. They have the locker room culture to do that. They've proven in the past that they do have the ability to overcome some of these difficult injuries that we've seen so far this year, and yet they're going to have to do it once again. And once Lane Johnson does get that surgery, this is why he can't get it right now, he's going to be looking at about a 10 to 12 week recovery. So his 2023 season won't be impacted at all, but if he were to undergo surgery right now, that would knock him out for the rest of the regular season as well as the playoffs. And this does sound really good in theory, right? Because Lane is going to be able to play in the playoffs. But what percentage is he going to be? And is he going to be the same player who, over time, has become the best right tackle in the NFL right now and one of the best right tackles of all time? The Eagles are a better football team with Lane Johnson, but if he's costing them just trying to gut it out, then that becomes a problem. We've seen when Johnson is out, because he's missed some time throughout his NFL career with respective injuries and then the PED suspension, that the Eagles, according to StatMuse, are 12-21 without Lane. Now, that record looks bad, and it is. Some of those losses did come when the Eagles just weren't a good football team. They do have the best offensive line coach in the NFL, in my opinion, in Jeff Stoutland, and Jack Driscoll is somewhat capable, but Johnson being out, Johnson being hobbled, when he does come back, can impact the Eagles with what they want to do, both through the air as well as on the ground game, protecting Jalen Hurts too, by the way, who we're about to talk about, and he's dealing with the shoulder injury to his throwing shoulder. Back in 2020, Lane Johnson did undergo ankle surgery that required multiple surgeries, basically over 2 years. He played through various injuries on that ankle, so he's no stranger to playing in pain. There are players in NFL history who have battled these types of core muscle injuries. Jason Kelce did. He was knocked out for 4 games back several years ago, but it's pretty difficult for an offensive lineman to be dealing with an abductor tear and a core muscle injury if you just think about the leverage, the oomph, the power that you need from that core, but you're also turning your body when you pass protect, but also when you're in those run sets. So before we get to Jalen Hurts, if you do think the Eagles are going to beat the Saints on Sunday to get that number one seed, home field advantage, going through South Philly, Lincoln Financial Field, then hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. For Jalen Hurts, during the Nick Sirianni press conference today, he said there's a chance that Hurts could play against the Saints on Sunday. Nick Sirianni did say that in the lead up to this Cowboys game this past weekend on Christmas Eve, and obviously Hurts didn't. They erred on the right side of caution. But Some interesting reports out there as far as this injury goes for Jalen Hurts. According to ESPN's Dan Graziano, he believes there was no chance that Hurts was going to play against the Cowboys, despite what the Eagles had said. And even though that decision was made until Friday of last week, he said, look, all along, Jalen Hurts wasn't going to play. He also believes that there's a slim chance that he plays against the Saints. Did add that the Eagles expect to have him back before the playoffs, but there's a chance that he might be limited and not the same even when he does return. A little bit concerning there if you want to wave some red flags there. Here's what Graziano said about Hurts. Quote, despite what the Eagles were saying publicly last week, I don't believe there was ever any consideration given to Jalen Hurts playing against the Cowboys after his shoulder injury was revealed. And once again, I'd be surprised if he played this week. Obviously, if he doesn't, it'll be Gardner Minshew again, who played solid against Dallas. Can't turn the football over 4 times. Graziano continued. The Eagles' real decision could end up being whether to give Hurts some action in Week 18 against the Giants, just so that he hasn't had 5 weeks off before their divisional round matchup, assuming they get that number 1 seed. The impression I get from talking to people about this situation is that the Eagles believe they will have Hurts back before the first playoff game, but they still aren't sure about the extent to which the injury will affect him once he does return. Now, you can look at that at a couple of ways and a couple of avenues, right? It's a shoulder injury to his throwing arm. And we saw the hit that he took when he got crunched to the frozen turf at Soldier Field against the Bears. He was able to finish that game. He did unlock and unleash a beautiful deep ball to A.J. Brown, probably playing on some adrenaline. Once that adrenaline wears down, injury starts to settle in, and then that shoulder injury becomes maybe a little bit more sore and troublesome. But if Hurts isn't the same guy come NFL playoff time, this is a little bit of a problem. This is a guy who's taken a massive step as a passer this year, and he deserves credit for the development that he's made as a passer. The Eagles have really surrounded him with a lot of complementary pieces. But in the NFL playoffs, you're going to have to win a couple of ways. You might have to win ugly. You might have to win pretty. You might have to win in a shootout. You might have to win in a close game. You'll have to win throwing the football at least a little bit. And if Hurts' accuracy, which has been spectacular this year, 68% completion percentage, is impacted a little bit, he could miss throws. Those throws and misfires could lead to turnovers, and turnovers can flip a game like they have in the 2 Eagles losses this year, 4 against Washington, 4 against the Dallas Cowboys, nearly hurt them against the Chicago Bears as well. And you're looking at Lane Johnson, all-pro right tackle, MVP candidate, quarterback, and Jalen Hurts now having this shoulder injury. This isn't trending in a great direction for the Eagles right now, as they've been pretty much smooth sailing up until this Cowboys game. So some worries starting to set in a little bit, but again, I do have faith in Nick Sirianni that he can keep the locker room intact here and alleviate some of the concerns and the worrisome thought process that a lot of people might have about this team. Let's get to C.J. Gardner-Johnson, quick on Terrell Owens as well. So C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Sirianni said that he's not sure if his practice window will be opened this week. He is eligible to come off IR after that lacerated kidney injury against the Green Bay Packers, but if they haven't opened his practice window yet, it's highly doubtful, at least in my opinion, that he plays this week. You can win this game without C.J. Gardner-Johnson, but come playoff time, if you're without him, you're without Avonte Maddox, and you're seeing a lot more of Kevon Wallace, as well as Josiah Scott. There's some quarterbacks in the NFC who could carve this defense up. Shoot, Dak Prescott threw for 300 yards and was perfect against the Eagles' soft zone on Christmas Eve. Could Terrell Owens, speaking of the Cowboys, go to the Dallas Cowboys? This is weird, and it's funny because T.O. hasn't played in like a decade or so, yet every single season he tries to put feelers out there and see if he can latch on with the team to become the oldest player to play in the history of the NFL, beating out George Blanda. So Terrell Owens' agent, according to Sports Illustrated, we've been in constant communication with Jerry Jones' office over the last few days about the possibility of T.O. returning to the Cowboys. Terrell is ready to contribute and play any role, big or small. He's in outstanding shape. He looks no different than he did years ago. I watched him running routes full speed with Deshaun Jackson, and he looked great. He didn't drop a pass. Now, if you look at Terrell Owens right now, he also played in that fan-driven football league. He legit is chiseled. He looks to be in fantastic shape. As an athlete, this guy is a special specimen. He was when he played. He's been after, and for him to maintain his body the way that it is. It's fantastic. But the dude is 49 years old. There's no way that a team is going to bring in Terrell Owens at 49 years old. And I think that him and his agent are just desperate to have one last opportunity. And for the Cowboys, they didn't bring in OBJ. They brought in T.Y. Tilton, 3rd and 30. What's up? Shoot me. And now they're not going to bring in Terrell Owens. So I think that this is something to just get his name out there as a talking point. He was trending on Twitter this morning, and I'm like, why is Terrell Owens trending on Twitter? Did he get in another fight outside of CVS? And then I took a look, and I was like, oh, okay. So he wants to return, and he's been in contact with the Dallas Cowboys. It'd be a fascinating story for him to go back to Dallas, T.O. He was fantastic for the Eagles back in the day. I was actually at his first game in an Eagles uniform in the NFC Championship game against the Falcons, in which the Eagles won without him, but he hasn't played in so long. So I think that this is just something to drum some conversation up. All right. Appreciate y'all for watching today. It was the off day, but had to bring you the latest Eagles news because I'm built for this, and I absolutely love it. Just love chopping it up, talking Eagles football. So please make sure you subscribe. We'll be live Thursday, 5 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Pacific, live watch party on Sunday. Enjoy the rest of your day.